Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Today, I want to do something a little different. I want to focus on developing an arsenal with a one brand focus. Don't forget, if you like our content, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check us out on socials. So, let's say you're a huge Motiv fan and only want Motiv balls exclusively in your bag. How do you set up an arsenal? What options do we have? What is my personal favorites? Well, I'm going to take you through the thought process. I'll remind you all of my arsenal building methodology. And then let's look at the Motiv balls available, where they fit, and what I like. First of all, let's talk about the basics of the Tamara bowling arsenal building technique. I use a basic quadrant setup, which essentially places balls according to strength and reaction shape. So you have strong defined, which is the ball for the highest volume when you need the court to make a more defined shape. I tend to fit surfaced ASIMs in there because the cores tend to stand up and sort of they want to force the stabilization essentially. And then you have strong control where it's similar in terms of surface strength, but the reaction shape is a little rounder and more control, like I would say, for example, surface symmetric. As you go down in volume, you drop into the mid categories, as I call them. And so, start with the defined, mid defined. So you go down in volume. Now, you have less volume handling, but you still want a core that wants to stand up on its own. Many times these are shiny ASIMs, let's say, but not exclusively. Then you go over to the right, which is mid control. And this tends to be where I would say benchmark balls tend to sit, but again, not exclusively. Medium volume handling, smoother ball reaction shape, and that tends to make for the most versatile ball in general. And then finally, you have mid late. Now you have a lower volume ball that can generate higher angle down lane. And that's maybe your breakdown ball or something used late in the block. Now, as you can see a little bit in the background, but I'm going to put it up, the current Motiv lineup and what it looks like. There's 16 balls in there. And, my methodology, we just talked about making a 5 ball bag plus a spare ball for a total of 6, thereabouts. Can it get any harder? Well, I guess if you're, say, a Brunswick brands or Storm Products fan, maybe. But anyway, we're focused on Motiv here. So let's jump in. Let's start with strong defined. Now, this is possibly the easiest one of all. The Jackal Ambush, Jackal Ghost fit there. The Ghost is still one of the best Motiv balls ever made, and frankly, maybe one of the best balls, period, ever made. Very reliable and versatile, actually, for the slot. I would say the minor knock would be that it really isn't the strongest, strong defined ball for me, but it works for all but the highest volume patterns. However, if you have a higher rev rate, it's probably more than enough. Now, let's go to, so I will actually save my personal favorites for a little later in the video. I'm just going to kind of focus on what fits in right now. So the strong control, I find this one a little tricky in the Motiv lineup for a few reasons. First, what fits in there? The Forge Ember, I would say the Primal Shock, Venom Shock, maybe even the Carbide Tank fits here as well. I feel the Forge Ember is probably the most square fit in this category of the Motiv lineup. It's the strongest and smoothest of the bunch. The tricky part is maybe the spoiler, the Forge Ember. For me, this is not my personal favorite. I actually prefer the original Forge, to be honest, and that was also square in this slot. But anyway, the other thing is that the shocks, either one, work best for me with some surface when they have, say, 2000 grit. They fit, but when they have 2000 grit, I should say, they fit in the strong side, so they actually move into strong control. However, this is where it gets confusing. The Venom is quite angular for me and not always the shape I want in a control category. And the Primal's so close to the Venom, story's about the same. So anyway, that's where it is. Let's park that one for now. Let's move on to mid-defined. Mid-defined, Motive has three balls that fit here, in my opinion. The Mythic Jackal, Sky Raptor, Ripcord Launch. They are, I would say, all are a bit on the stronger side for shiny balls. All the cores kind of want to right themselves, so you get a more defined response from the core. And I would say the Mythic is maybe the roundest looking, but still angular. Sky Raptor is probably the hardest to stand up, so it really feels like a hook stop with a forward roll shape. And the Ripcord Launch kind of splits the difference. Now, mid control is next, and the balls I feel fit in here are the Black Venom, the Coral Venom, and possibly the Carbide Tank and the Venom Shock. The most square fit is the Black Venom, followed by the Coral Venom. Both fit quite well. To me, they seem to offer the best balance of length and shape that I like to see in the middle of the bag, so to speak. Venom Shock, as mentioned, is an interesting option. It's a little angular for to fit squarely in mid control, and with some surface, it's also maybe too strong for mid control, but it's so good, so it has to be in the bag, doesn't it? Well, we'll come back to that. Then there's the carbide tank. Shape wise, it's control for sure, no question. It just straddles the line between strong control and mid control. So again, maybe not completely a square fit. Now let's go into mid late, and finally the remaining balls, everything else fits in this category. And those are the Pride Empire, the Fatal Venom, Super Rally, and Top Thrill. The interesting thing is you have somewhat unique shapes between these balls, somewhat. I'd say the Pride Empire is a pretty flippy ball, as is the Super Rally. There may be a touch stronger than mid late, but can fit fine. So, they kind of a little bit on the stronger side, I found. The Fatal is definitely in the sort of lower end of the bag in terms of volume handling, but when you look at it in terms of where it would fit in the box, it is a little bit smooth, well, way smoother actually down lane, which gives it somewhat of a different use case than the other two. Or you just got to be a little bit more direct with the Fatal. And then I would say probably the Top Thrill is the most square fit in this category. So now that you know where they fit, let's talk about some examples of what a bag might look like. So I'm going to start with bag one. Bag one would be probably my personal bag, right? So this is probably going to be my favorite, so I'll kind of explain. So I would say my strong define would be the Jackal Ghost. Strong control would be the Carbide Tank. Mid define is going to be my Sky Raptor. Mid control is going to be the Black Venom. Mid late will be Top Thrill. And I'm actually going to throw a wild card in there, the Venom Shock, because I throw my spare ball straight, so I can use any one of these balls as a spare ball. Now, I would say I'm firm on the Jackal Ghost, Carbide Tank, Black Venom, and Venom Shock. The other slots are less definitive, but this is, I would say, likely what I would put together for my game if I needed a Motiv bag to go into, a pattern of play. Now, here's how they play out. Say there is, and I actually want to spend a little bit of time here because I think this is where people ask me, well, how do I know when to use which one of these balls? I mean, it's all good that you kind of describe them and they fit in a box and great, but then what is the use case, right? So this is what I want to spend a little time on here. So here's how they play out. There is a decent, let's say there's a decent volume to start out on fresh, and I want some angle down lane. I'm going to start with the ghost. Now, when the ghost starts to read early, but I still need some angle, I may actually drop to the Venom Shock because a lot of times I still want some like grip in the mids, right? I don't want it to just necessarily go from ghost to I need clean, right? And then I may be like again from I'm just playing this out depending incrementally on when you change. So on the left side, I'm by myself. The breakdown's a little slower. Breakdown may be faster on the right side, but let's say it breaks down a little bit. Ghost is starting to read early. If I get a little deeper, I'm going to lose some hit. So I may drop to the Venom Shock. And if it turns out I do need a lot more length early in the set, but I wanted to open up the angles, that's when the mid-defined shape would come out, which is the Sky Raptor. Now, if it's later in the set altogether, and let's say the Sky Raptor and Venom Shock is too much, then that's when it really gets to be like open up the lane, move in with something like the top thrill. Okay. Now, the alternative situation would be, say I'm starting out on a fresh sport shot and I need to keep my angles closed a bit, but I'm still dealing with some volume. So now here I'm probably going to start with the carbide tank because maybe I don't need the back end of the Venom shock, especially on a fresh sport shot. Now, if I need to stay in that area but need less read, I'm going to drop to the black Venom because again, now I'm getting a little bit of more length in the carbide, but still getting a kind of relatively controlled shape down lane to help me, control the angles on this pattern as I described it. I'm trying to stay a little bit more square. Now, if the fronts go away and then I need to edge in and it's still early in the block, then it's probably the Jackal Ghost switch. And then once it starts to break down further, I may wind up in, say, the Venom Shock. And in this scenario, it probably would be pretty hard for me to ever get to like the Sky Raptor, right? I'm probably never going to really need the mid defined in this situation where I need to kind of stay a little bit more square. So I hope that helps a little bit, and I'm happy to kind of do some other examples. But just to kind of finish out this video, I'm gonna give you a couple of additional bags as alternatives. So let's say bag 2, alternative 1, and again there are several combinations. You have 16 balls, so anyway I'll give you a few to chew on. So here's bag 2, strong define. Let's stick with the Jackal Ghost, but this time with the control, let's go with Forge Ember. Mid define, we'll stick with Sky Raptor. Mid control, we'll switch to Coral Venom. Mid late, switch to Pride Empire. And then the wild card would be the Carbide Tank with the Microzone Polymer, which, is a little bit more urethane like, for lack of better description. Bag 3, different option. Strong define. Let's go Jackal Ambush, right? We said it fits. Strong control. Let's do Primal Shock this time. Right, I think it can fit in there, especially if you put a little surface on it. Yes, it's a little bit more back end than the others, but that's okay. I mean, it still can fit. Mid define, we'll go Mythic Jackal. Mid control, we'll actually go with Venom Shock because we just put the Primal Shock in, and I may use a little less surface and get a kind of similar shape, but just put it further down in my bag, so that they're relatable. And then mid-late, I'll go Fatal Venom again, so that I have that relatable Venom look. And then finally, the Carbide. Well, again, we'll go with the Carbide Tank. Wild card. Yeah, we'll go with the Carbide Tank because this is just a different option, different look. So beyond this, look, you can mix, match to your liking. I try to create a bag where there is a clear and understandable transition and a relationship between the balls. Right. So hopefully you kind of got that or gleaned that from the, few bags I created. Hopefully, this helps out you Motiv fans out there in particular. If you'd like us to do something similar for another brand, let us know in the comments below. Good luck and good bowling.